Hello and welcome to a super quick guide for Kingdom Come Deliverance console commands. Most of these will be for PC performance, tweaks for your frame rate, a bit like my previous video. But then a couple at the end will be a little bit more interesting and just fun to use. So currently, in terms of settings, my graphics are 2K resolution, window mode is full screen, overall image quality is custom, which I'll show you in a second, and I do have show FPS on, which you can see up here, and elsewhere in the video I will zoom in at key moments so you can see what the FPS looks like. Advanced graphics settings, everything's on high aside from motion blur, which I've turned off. So this is settings that I don't normally use when recording, because as you can see, looking at that frame rate counter, it does drop if I look around vegetation or if I'm in a busy town like Rattay or Skalitz or something. But for the purpose of this video, I wanted to just turn everything up so that you could see the difference. So in order to get to the console, you hit the tilde key, which is to the left of the 1 key on your keyboard. And the first thing I want to show you is r_vsync, which is basically whether your vsync is on or off. If you type r_vsync, it'll tell you which value it currently is. So mine says =0, which means it's off. The game is defaulted to having it on, so you type in r_vsync =1. And that does lower the frame rate a little. As you can see, it's now sort of dipping around 56, 57, even when I'm looking at this scene. Whereas if I turn it back off again, it climbs back up. So I normally tend to keep that on a 0. I don't notice the difference too much aside from the frame rate drop. The second command I wanted to show you was sys max fps equals. So actually, if I just do sys_fps, mine is currently set to 60, so this is the max frame rate that your game will allow. If you change that to something like 30, it means that an older or slightly slower machine will be able to keep up with a constant rate of frames. I don't really like this mode, especially with my monitor, because things look a little bit jerky and you can get motion sickness apparently. So if you're not really used to it, I would recommend upping it to 60, but if your machine is sort of chugging along, then 30 might be for you. The third I want to talk about is r_anti-aliasing mode. Nope, that's not how you spell that. Anti-aliasing mode. Nope. There we go. So mine is currently set to 1. The lower the better. If you have it on 0, you should notice a better frame rate, but if I up it to something like 3, as you can see, it dips down a little bit lower. We're sort of looking at 48, 49 now on that frame rate counter. So I like to keep mine on 1, but if you're struggling with your frame rate, I'd recommend turning that to 0. The next is r_sharpening, and this is basically how sharp the game looks. The effects on frame rate are not that important, but it does change how the game looks. So mine's currently on 0, but if I change it to something like 3, as you can see, everything looks a lot sharper, and I don't know, a lot of people think that it looks a bit more realistic like this, so maybe on 2 or even on 1. But I tend to think that 0 looks nicer, everything looks a bit smoother, so it's kind of personal preference. The frame rate is negligible, really. Another one is shadows max res text, which is basically the max text res, which is the texture resolution for your shadows. So mine's currently on 1024, and you can up this to well, pretty high. If you go 2048, it basically means that these shadows have a higher texture. Or texture resolution. The sun is kind of setting here, so it's hard to see, but it's gone down quite a lot, that frame rate, and if I knock it to 4096, you'll notice the frame rate really starts to chug. So changing it to something like 720 or even 480 means that your frame rate will suffer less. I'm actually getting tired in game, as you can see. I'm yawning away. So now we can look at some of the more fun ones like CL_FOV, which is basically the field of vision. So you can set that something like 120, which looks like something from Quake 3 Arena, or you can even zoom in with it to something like 15. You can look over the horizons, the beautiful graphics in the distance. I think the default is 60 and I have mine set to 65. There's also G_show HUD, and I think 1 is showing the HUD, whereas 0 removes the HUD. So if you want to take sort of cool screenshots, that's good for you as well. I am doing another video which talks about the crosshair to the HUD while aiming a bow, which really helps for archery. But for now, thanks very much for watching. If you have any comments, let me know. Give me a like, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.